Can my partner, meaning my spouse or the other parent in a unmarried custody case, be required to pay for my attorney, to pay for my attorney's fees? Yes, your partner can be forced to pay for your attorney. Now, let's talk about the two situations where it's possible, okay? Number one is purely sort of a financial imbalance between the two litigants in a case, okay? And simply, what does that mean? What does that look like? Very simply, you're going to have an imbalance of incomes, a dramatic imbalance of incomes. You're going to have a dramatic difference in just kind of like who has access to resources. Maybe you're going through a divorce and all of a sudden your soon-to-be ex-husband, cuts you out of some huge account that you guys shared. So sometimes it's just pure income imbalance. Sometimes it is somebody has been just cut off from some of the liquid cash accounts of the two litigants. And sometimes that income financial imbalance is simply, one of the parties has paid their lawyer a lot more. Okay? So it's going to look like that in terms of the financial imbalance, that income imbalance, just a lack of ability to access money difference, and just looking purely at how much each lawyer has been paid and balancing that out. This part of the law is actually referred to as the leveling of the playing fields, law in Illinois. Let me talk about what this looks like in the financial imbalance part of, a case where that's the basis for getting attorney's fees paid. It's going to usually happen right up front or at the very end of the case. Let me describe two situations for you so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. I would say most often I'm going to deal in a situation like this. Our client earned half as much as his spouse, and he's going through a divorce. So right up front in one of our cases, I asked the court for an immediate contribution to attorney's fees. And because the parties' incomes were dramatically different, in other words, our client was earning half as much as his wife, the court right up front, in the first couple court dates in our case, ordered a contribution to our client's attorney's fees. Typically, I'm seeing contribution awards, $2,500 to $5,000, somewhere in that range. But that's one way to do it, is just right up front, get what we would call interim attorney's fees ordered right away. Very, very common. Now, the other scenario that I see most frequently would be at the very end of a case, meaning I'm in the process of settling a divorce case right now where our client earns significantly more than his soon-to-be ex-wife, and my client has access to significantly greater resources than his soon-to-be ex-wife. In this situation, so far, over the last year or so, nobody's been required to pay either one's attorney's fees. They've just paid their own attorney. But as part of the end of this case, because there's a dramatic financial imbalance, our client's going to be required to contribute $5,000 to his ex-wife's attorney's fees. So that's the first situation where attorney's fees may be required to be paid to the other party in a case. That general situation where there's a financial imbalance. Now, what's the second situation? The second situation is when the only reason you are going to court is to enforce a court's order. And because that's the only reason you're going into court, you're going to be able to get attorney's fees from that other party because that's sort of the idea. The only reason you're needing to expend costs, to expend attorney's fees, is because this other parent isn't following a court's order. For example, I just got about a $4,000 attorney fee award for a client of ours because the only reason we were in court on this woman's behalf was because her ex-husband was not following a court order with regards to child support and various other child expenses he was ordered to pay and he wasn't paying. So, can your partner, spouse, or other parent in a parentage case be required to pay your attorney's fees? Absolutely. And those are the two situations. A great financial imbalance between the parties, or the only reason you're going into court is to enforce a former court order. And in that situation, you're able to get attorney's fees paid too. Now, let me add one final little postscript or PS. You need a case in court in order to really take advantage of those two situations. So, just a warning up front is typically, in my experience, you're going to have to be able to come up with, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to pay your attorney up front, really to get one of those cases going before, I would be able to take advantage of those two sort of parts of the law to get you those attorney's fees. So just keep that in mind, that you are going to need to be able to basically front some money to your attorney before you'll be able to get those attorney's fees from the other party in a case.